The Swiss rounds are behind us, and now we enter the top 8 of the battle-hardened Milwaukee. I'm Steven, you're Sam, and we're here, ready to look at our top 8 bracket. So let's go ahead and jump down into it, see what we have to work with. First things first, no one, and I repeat, no one expected a Bolton Breaker of Dawn deck to be the 1 seed.
Come on.
Coming into week 2
So
of this
sick.
brand new meta, and I'll tell you what, I am so impressed by the play of Alex. And look who he's facing down, Lucas Oswald. That's the match we watched. And I don't know about you,
Oh, right.
Sam, but Alex looked so comfortable executing the exact game plan in moments where he could have had even more insane, like, pop-off turns. He was sort of relegated to these pedestrian 20 damage turns instead and still managed to just get there against Lucas. Now, that's not indicative of perhaps Lucas's top level of play. We could see him draw, into disruption earlier, or we could see him draw into, his transcend cards earlier, and maybe that matchup looks a little different. But it's not the only one we have to look at. What else is on that side of the bracket?
Dude, well, there's a couple of different Viserais and an Aurora looking down beyond that first match. Of course, we have a new in there as well. We have Nick Gabler versus Sage Rusani. That's going to be Viserai versus Do, your 4th and 5th seed. And then we have that Count Your Blessings Verdance deck versus Sam Dando on Aurora. And then, of course, down at the bottom there, another Verdance versus a different Runeblade in our second Viserai of the top 8. So the Runeblades are eating good. The Verdances are eating well as well, but at the top of the mountain here, top 8, it's going to be Bolton undefeated on the day. But we have got our first top 8 match for you all. I think we waste no further time and dive forth into our matchup. It's going to be Nick and Sage, new versus Viserai. This is the game for us here in this top 8. We did say one new. We were talking about that, when we were like, what deck could make it in? New is a deck that has done quite well early in this meta as well.
Yeah, having the ability to just play a disruptive game plan and just send disruption upon disruption is her. I love the flip of the sleeve. Had to show off the face there. It is a tradition here now at these min-max battle hardens. Nevertheless, being able to disrupt over and over again is the name of the game for new, and sometimes it just comes in the form of like 14 damage and a bunch of banishes and disruption as well. So no surprise here. As long as you can dodge the enigmas in the room, that new makes her way to the top 8.
Yeah, of course.
Gonna start things off, get the life totals rolling. Nick Viserai on the play with that spring tunic. Off the face Purgatory, the Grasp of the Arcanite, and the Spellbound Creepers as well. We're going to be pitching away and amplify the Arcanite and a blue Rune Flash, make a Rune Chant here. And then pass is just going to be good on the first turn of the game. Back over to new. So Nick had the higher seed, elected to go first, and just decided to Arsenal after creating the Rune Chant.
Yeah, a very classic Runeblade play, to take the play or be forced onto the play and not allow your opponent to cycle, to keep threats in the deck yourself, make a Rune Chant, sculpt your hand, and make them play what they drew up. No mulligan means you have to figure out what you're doing with your 4-card hand. You don't get a free mulligan from me attacking on turn 0. So Sage now going to send Enlightened Strike.
5, go again. This card looking for a scrap. Often how the new really gets damage across, because the new presents so much in the way of actual disruption that these just vanilla damage is often like, well, I have to take this because what if they send something like a Persuasive Prognosis, and that's the one I want to block. Looks as though the Rune Rager Swarm shored up 3 points of damage on the Enlightened Strike, so Nick down to 38. Now our Viserai player has to contend with the Persuasive Prognosis. No reaction, but that is just going to banish now the,
Banish that one.
the Amplify the Arcanite blue. Nice little get there for Sage.
That's a pretty solid card. It does not really have the capability of being disrupted, being played for the lower cost. Because you can't really make Rune Chants unless you somehow banish cards that allow you to make Rune Chants, but Sage can eventually play that card out after a new activation for free. So you don't have to worry about the rune chant creation there. I want to point out there's 2 blue cards presented on that turn. 4 blocks, a blue Rune Rager
Wow.
Swarm, and there's another blue. That was a 4
blue hand.
It's not something you really see from a Viserai very often, particularly the more aggressive slant. If we take a look at what he's rifling through, we can see a lot of
blues in that deck.
Yeah, and this is open deck list as well. I believe both players were reviewing deck lists before this. A large number of blues as we see him rifle through there.
Yep.
Grabbing the Read the Runes allows him to just play this. Obviously, a really uncomfortable 4 blue hand, three blue attack action cards. Means that, this kind of bails him out a little bit on the Become the Arknight play.
And the Reaping Blade there, keeping that Persuasive Prognosis from gaining Sage a life, banishing the action card. Should have gained him a life, but unfortunately that Reaping Blade did have something to say about it. Rune Rager Swarm going to be 3 damage. Go again.
So definitely playing aggressively here by sending that Rune Rager Swarm. There was just the choice point that you could just play the Read the Runes here, gaining 3 more rune chants and then passing, and then holding Rune Rager Swarm for a 5-card hand on your next turn. But again, that's predicated on not being disrupted by the Hand of New. And taking a look at what... Oh, and there's a Bonds of Agony in that hand.
Looks like Sage might just be taking all of this. At least the Rune Chant. Considering blocking the Rune Rager Swarm.
Has the ability to react and transcend if the play is made. Has the Transcend card. Has a what looked like a red hiss. And this is my question. Are you going to commit equipment to block so that you can then get the value out of them and then pop them to play Bonds of Agony's effect after activating by getting 3 attack reactions?
4 rune chants created from the Read the Rune, so 5 on the next turn for the Viserai player here, your 4th seed of the Battle Hardened. Bonds of Agony to start things off from Sage. Put both hands on the table, or the cards on the table, hands to the chin, ask your opponent, what do you want to respect here?
This is a dangerous play. The haul, as it's starting to thin out here, top 8 has well and truly begun. There is still I believe, a Super Armory going on right now, which has players still playing some Rosetta over to the side of us, but this is the real question mark. How to block or deal with this Bonds of Agony, because reactions are aplenty. They are rife with reactions on the board. You can obviously use Undertow Stilettos here, but Alluring Wave, even though you didn't cash in the block value, could still be activated for that extra point of damage if needed.
You got it.
Preserve Tradition is going to target one of those actions in the graveyard. Put the Enlightened Strike back on the bottom of the deck. And then, of course, Transcend with the Preserve Tradition to turn it into a chi. Mask of Recurring Nightmares. First attack reaction card from the hand must get banished here.
Yep, this makes 1 reaction. We know the boots are available as well. Most likely why we cashed in. There is the keep on the Command and Conquer that allows the hiss play, and then of course the Slither is the 3rd one. So this then buffs up.
Yeah. No for the defense. Take 4.
So 4 will come over the top. The Bonds of Agony gonna trigger. Hand is revealed. Runic Reckoning or the Amplify the Arknight here, and it does show why that Runic Reckoning was the blocking choice. I think Nick expected his hand to get ripped apart, but if both of the Runic Reckonings were in the hand, then Sage would have been able to go ahead and just grab both of them out of the hand.
And if we're taking a look at the board, that is a blue Amplify the Arknight, and if that is selected, we already saw 1 blue Amplify the Arknight either be pitched or be blocked with earlier. I think it's in the banish zone right now. So there's exactly 1. There it is in the banish zone. That is still left in the deck, but I believe you could grab reds of Amplify the Arknight.
Yeah, absolutely could have chosen.
It's gonna get banished. Yeah.
This is allowing Sage to go find the other Runic Reckoning, but interestingly, if you had chosen that blue Amplify the Arknight, it would have meant that 3 red Amplify the Arknights could have hit the banish zone there.
If they're in the deck, and that's the really important point, because if you're not playing those red Amplify the Arknights, then...
It was one of his first pitched cards, so he's
red Amplify.
Yeah.
Okay, well then yes,
he saw 1 at the beginning of the game. I think it was his turn 0 pitch.
I may have sided 1 out. Can't remember if I did or
This is a moment also for the new player to rifle through and literally see everything in the deck. You can count how many, you know, non-attacks there.
You heard him say, it looks like Nick actually sided out one of the Runic Reckonings.
He did the courtesy look of, hey, let's go ahead and check my sideboard really quick.
Yeah, showing. There it is. So Sage here gets one card out of the hand, but the Bonds of Agony could have removed 2 further threats from the deck, so maybe that Amplify the Arcanite would have been the more impactful pick.
Oh, yeah.
Should have played around it here. Picking the Runic Reckoning, turning out to not get that extra value. But you know what? Honestly, you've set yourself up so nicely on this turn, and you didn't have to commit much. Look, you didn't have to pop Undertow Stilettos. You literally just played the Hiss into the Slither, plus the Mask of Recurring Nightmares activation, which is what you want to do anyway. A shake of the head from Sage, but I think a fine turn nonetheless.
I will tick up my Tunic.
Tunic ticked up here. That Arsenal card can just come in now. The card that could have hit the Arsenal instead going to be played on the combat chain. 5 rune chance, 4 damage from the Amplify the Arcanite. Nice little 1 card, 9 damage. Of course, cards were invested into those rune chants on previous turns. However, here, just 1 card for 9 damage that Sage certainly has to think about.
And Sage could have grabbed that card, and instead it would have been a non-attack, which perhaps would have represented either an Arsenal or a swing with a Reaping Blade for 1 less point of value. So 4 and 5, or in this case 5 and 4 being presented. Arcane Barrier in the form of Arcane Lantern, the beautiful extended art Arcane Lantern from Everfest. Going to take the 5 points of Arcane, not deciding to pitch into it. Let's take a look at the hand and see if we can figure out why. I'm going to block there. Sinking. Ooh, sinking the Enlightened Strike. And instead keeping the Chi card in hand.
Unfortunately for Sage, no targets, no threat is that Command and Conquer on this turn. Might keep it for the Arsenal to try to threaten something later, but as of now, that's just 6 vanilla damage.
Persuasive Prognosis available to be played here as a blue card, allowing you to transcend. Card that Sage is feathering, however. Let's see if we can get maybe a closer look. Considering, Surgical Extraction. Wonderful card. Costs 2, threatens the possibility of banishing the top of the deck and banishing a card from hand. Not often played, very often pitched in this deck and in most Assassin decks.
It can be so nice, though, with that 1 floating. If you have the hisses, if you have the venomous bites, such a powerful effect. Another way to just look in the hand, rip out a card. I love playing Surgical Extraction. I don't know about you.
I'm a big fan.
That's one of my favorite ones to actually throw on the chain.
It was one of my spoiler cards for that season, actually. Fantastic little card.
I'm still thinking on blocks.
Could decide to try and overblock here. Now, we know the composition of the hand dictates that this is just a sort of a vanilla attack. You can do this path well-traveled play, and that allows you to really get a card from the hand in addition, thanks to the energy being pitched for that Mask of Recurring Nightmares, and there's the banish there.
And then I'll pass. You got it.
And that'll do it.
Machinations of Dominion going to be the banish thanks to the Mask of Recurring Nightmares.
This game is definitely played out slightly differently than I expected. Viserai not just playing hair on fire, throwing damage after damage, and instead playing a much more measured game plan. See if the hit here connects, and it does. Immediate snap grab of the Swarming Gloom Veil.
1 Arcane coming at you.
1 Arcane from the Sonata Arcanics. That's going to be accepted by New, down to 31.
Sage very content to take it. Looking at the 4-card hand, we know CNC's in circulation. We have just the Nick in hand as well. I think a second Surgical Extraction may be drawn up, but definitely a Codex of Frailty. Gonna block here for the 3, covering up the Swarming Gloom Veil.
So shortcut us. Cover there. I'm going to Tunic.
Tunic to hit the high note. So this is coming in 1 and 6 and make a rune chant in the back.
What a value play.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nice use of the Tunic there for sure, right?
Yeah. You're looking at Viserai, at least I am. I'm looking at Viserai and thinking this is definitely one of those decks that just wants to play aggressively. Period. End of story. But Here we see a far more measured, patient, value-based game plan that's just looking to push just value, as we see here. I mean, the Sonata Arcanic's not pitched into, created a half of a rune chant, and then grabbed the other card that did create the full rune chant. And this was off of the back of a disruptive turn. Throwing a hit the high note, so 1 for 6. That actually represented a 1 for 7 value off the Tunic resource.
Making that rune chant in the back. Sage got a Codex of Frailty, Surgical Extraction, I think a Bonds of Attraction as well. Just given the arousing wave here.
Go ahead.
Thinking on further blocks.
Anytime I see this type of play, to me it screams that the player is looking to use the effect on the following turn. If you're blocking with a piece of equipment on innocuous damage, then there's a reason. And it could very well be that you're looking to pop a Rousing Wave on this coming turn so that you can activate some attack reaction effects, or you're just looking for that +1 to kind of come over the top.
Sage here, I think a little struggling to utilize that Command and Conquer that I think is still hanging out in the arsenal because Nick is just playing off an arsenal. He's just saying, listen, you can disrupt me too much. I don't want to see it. I'm just going to keep my arsenal open. And so far, it's working. He's up 9 life on the new player here.
Defense on the Mistblade.
Beckoning Mistblade is going to connect, so Nick is down to 33, and the next blue attack gets go again, which can be now Surgical Extraction into CNC with the Tunic if we just want to push a bunch of damage.
Yes, it can indeed. And remember, this is representing breakpoints and a rousing wave, as we talked about. Possible +1 just on the board, but there's no arsenal for Nick, so it's essentially just representing on board 1 extra point, not taking any disruption whatsoever.
With the Surgical?
With the CNC.
Ah,
Yeah, because it would push from 6 to 7. But you could use it on Surgical Extraction, but you're pushing into a breakpoint. And if they commit 2 cards, then there's no point.
yeah. Have to see what the blocks are for Nick, as both players can see the arousing wave sitting on that side of the table. Surgical Extraction once again threatening to take a card here from Nick's hand unless some blocks want to be committed. Looks like he's got a Machinations, he's got a Snuff Out, Rattle Bones, and a Become the Arc Knight.
Block
like-
for 6.
Blocking for 6 is the play.
1 floating does make you wonder if the arsenal is something like a hiss, right, for the +3 effect.
Yep.
But if you're already committing 6, another card coming out of your hand means that you're just probably arsenaling, and maybe you're safe just feeling comfortable just throwing a card into the arsenal and letting them take what they wish.
I'll play Rattlebones. Banish.
Rattlebones here, gonna go ahead and just most likely grab the Gloom Veil. It'll be 3, go again, make a Rune Chant into the Reaping Blade.
A very common pattern that we've seen today, actually, with all of these Viserai running around.
It itself creates 7 points of damage. 3 from the Swarming Gloom Veil. It makes a 4th with the Rune Chant, and then the 3 more from the Reaping Blade, but it will be 8 points of damage on the turn thanks to the Rune Chant from the turn before.
Yeah, the total on this turn feels quite efficient when you round it all out. I mean, Rattlebones is just an efficient card in and of itself, allowing you to really make whatever you have the resources for available to you. So on this turn, having the basically 2-card hand with Rattlebones, right? Having a blue alongside of it means you can do exactly what you say. Grab Swarming, send that along with the Rune Chant, create a Rune Chant on the back, send the Reaping Blade with that last resource floating. But no, he's going to grab a Snuff Out instead.
Grab the Snuff Out and threaten some disruption. One of the new pieces from Rosetta that have really changed the way this Viserai deck can play, making the Rune Chant on attack thanks to the Viserai trigger. So there's the aura that can be destroyed to the card's effect. And of course, when it hits and that aura is destroyed, the defending hero has to discard a card. So a little more than just damage being represented by our 4th seed here, Battle Hardened Milwaukee.
Some fortuitous timing, because we do see that the Sage drew into another copy of Bonds of Agony. So if you don't interact with this hand, then a Bonds of Agony is coming across with serious disruptive potential.
Yep. And then pay for the Rune Chant. You got it.
Float Tunic to pay for the Rune Chant there.
Still having to deal with 5 damage on the board.
Still not going to have an arsenal for that Command and Conquer that Sage is patiently waiting on.
Very good point. drawing up new 4-card hand and looking down at a simple CNC. Now I like this. Play the CNC. Don't worry about trying to get the value of a disruption on the arsenal, especially with some equipment being available to block still. You're just gonna arsenal that big power card in Bonds of Agony instead.
Tunic up to 2. Looks like Nick just went ahead and took all 6 of that because it was
Correct. Yep.
it was vanilla there.
Drawing into what looks like an erase face alongside of another level.
Malefic Incantation. 3 counters.
I'm still just so impressed by how powerful Malefic Incantation is in this, in just the Runeblade class in general. I mean, it's done wonders for all of the Runeblades that are looking for persistent aura creation, and Rune Chance specifically. Rune Rager Swarm, one of those cards.
Sugar Malefic. I'll make
2 Rune Chants, 1 from Viserai, 1 from Malefic here. So this is 1 and 3. Go again.
Yep.
Rune Chant goes to the graveyard and then remembers it can't do that, so then it leaves. And instead goes to the non-existent space on the side of the board. The liminal space slipped into the side.
Yep.
3 go again on the stack here. How to resolve this? That's just vanilla damage, so I would imagine Sage perhaps just saying, yep, looks like it's just take the damage, keep your hand. Present something more impactful, and I will interact with you.
You got it. Move to end. All arsenal.
That's going to take a block out of Sage. Moving to Arsenal. Is our Viserai play here? So he's trying to establish a 5-card hand. What disruption can Sage throw down? An erase face potentially works on disruption, and also then turns off the Viserai hero ability, because Viserai needs to see Runeblade cards played after non-attack actions. And of course, erase face, one of those 2-for-6 majestic staples that come around most sets. This one from Uprising. This is our producer's spoiler card from back in the day, Ethan Mansant Vansant. That's going to buy at least a 3-block from the Rune Rager Swarm. Looks as though perhaps some other damage are going to come across, because even though class and talent types are lost, the cards themselves are still attacks and non-attack actions. That does not get lost to the erase phase.
Oh, this is an interesting choice. He's going to end up taking the effect, so his face is well and truly erased here, but he might just as well throw down the yellow Malefic Incantation and maybe just send Reaping Blade, banking up the counters and the triggers for later. Obviously, you're not getting a value play here. No, you made an aura, so you're going to make a couple more auras. You're not getting the Viserai trigger, but you are still able to play out a turn. Swarming comes across.
From the incantations, yep.
4/4. Keep in mind, Erase Face does indeed stop class and talent types, but it does not stop any of the triggered effects from Swarming Gloomveil.
Nor from these Malefic Incantations. They just check for attack action. So should have been one more rune chant created, but Viserai's face is erased. So if you got an erased face, it's really hard to use your hero ability. I mean, it's nearly impossible.
That is a canon event.
It's a canon event indeed. Sink Below is the block. Sink Below is going to resolve. Sink Below means another card drawn for Sage here. I think it might have been a Transcend card, but couldn't quite tell.
I'm going to play Revel. Make 4 rune chants up to 6.
Revel only checks for non-attack and attack action cards. Again, not checking for Runeblade cards. So this entire turn is well and truly played out.
It's cool.
Really nicely.
It means that Erase Face was not just for 6. It was basically for 8, because those were 2 rune chants that should have been created on this turn that the Erase Face turned off. So 2-card 8. That deck won a world championship.
I will say, though, I think when you're playing that as Sage, you're hoping for that to have a more impactful effect on the game and really stymie the ability for Nick to kind of play out a turn. But it turns out that that is not the case at all, and we're representing 9 total value on this portion of the turn, and then before that, even more with the Sin to the Swarming Gloomveil.
13.
Depending on how you count the rune chant from the previous turn, it's a 13 value play there.
Sage down to 13, and I will say I don't feel as though the new deck has been able to string together enough disruption to really warrant being down this far in life. It feels like Sage, at this point in the game, you know, gotten Nick down to 24. Here's a CNC threatening the arousing wave and whatever else potential reaction abilities are in there. But this is looking like he's going to go ahead and try to trigger the base Purgatory before there are any abilities to do any reactions. That will force the Siren's Call to be discarded.
Yeah, to Sage's credit, they just have not drawn the attack reactions they're looking for to pair with the arsenaled Bonds of Agony. They found, and there they are. There's at least one. They've found several before this, but it just has not lined up in the way that you might want.
Pitch for a Rune Flash, pitching an Arcanite Shard. Trigger.
Ooh, Arcanite Shard in the list. That legendary Viserai specialization. It's a beautiful fabled card. I've never been able to get myself to, you know, convince myself to get one because it really can only be used in this deck. I've played a good amount of Viserai in my day, but Rune Flash is going to come in with 4, and thanks to the Arcanite Shard and both of those Malefic Incantations, 3 Rune Chance in the back there. If that does not speak to Nick's propensity to play Viserai, I'm sure he was happy to see all these new cards in the Rosetta set. But now 4 damage with Go again. Sage is going to take it down to 9. It just kind of feels like he's just slowly dying.
Amplify.
Yeah. And that's a massive swing. Amplify the Arcanite. Remember we talked earlier, if they pulled Amplify the Arcanite blue, they could have taken the reds. Instead, this is a moment where Amplify the Arcanite red really comes across for another 9 points of value. Look at this turn. It was 13 points plus the Rune Chance at the beginning, which, what were there, 2 at the beginning as well? No, maybe just a full pitch of the Rune Flash. So at least 13 points of value on this turn. Again, turn after turn after turn. This is just like value vis. You can get it great value brand.
Value brand Viserai. Working nicely here for Nick. 6 damage now that Sage has to think about sitting at 9. Even taking 3 here doesn't feel very good. Nick sitting at the 24 just New has not been able to find the disruption. Does have those pieces of equipment still available to him. A Rousing Wave. Does have the Undertow Stiletto. Only seen a Codex of Frailty used as a pitch outlet. Again, these are cards that we want to see played. These are cards we want to see if we're the new player developed. It's part of what makes the deck so strong. It feels as though Sage here has just not found the cards in the correct order, because I don't even think we've seen Nick do anything like all that spicy, all that amazing, just kind of consistently applying pressure, and Sage taking some damage to throw disruptive effects that aren't actually that disruptive, and so as a result, the trades are just not ending in his favor.
Wow.
No blocks here, down to 3. Sage has got a plan, and I'm excited to see it.
Head in hands before declaring no blocks. It almost feels like a sign of resignation, the Bonds of Agony. A drop of a card. Definitely the frustrations, perhaps, coming through, but this Bonds does provide the possibility. Oh, missed the tunic.
I was going to say,
trigger.
did we miss it? Because this would have been a big turn to have it.
Oh, no. That might actually spell far more doom than at first it appears, because you want that tunic resource to be able to play out the hiss from the hand to activate the arousing wave.
Yeah. Sage does have the Codex in this hand. Most likely will utilize it alongside Go again with his Bonds of Agony. This is bound to be a powerful turn, but how disruptive can it truly be? Especially given that Nick only has to create a couple Rune Chance to threaten lethal with 2 different forms, arcane and physical.
I'm going to say no defense.
Bonds of Agony, no blocks here. Passing to the reactions. Nick feels fairly insulated at 24 life. There are 2 Rune Rager Swarms, it looks like, in the hand, so there's definitely a target that steals value out of this hand if Sage puts 3 reactions on the board. And there's the pitch for the hiss. Pitching a blue card, that is going to create the slither. There's the activation. There's all 3, so this immediately bumps itself up to 4. So now we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points.
So this goes up to 7 again?
Yeah.
8?
8.
Okay.
8, excuse me, 8 points because the slither.
8 damage now of this Bonds of Agony. Nick taking it down to 16, and once again just revealing the hand. Mordred Tide, Deadwood Dirge, Malefic Incantation, Rune Rager Swarm. Only 1 attack in the hand, but the rest of the Rune Rager Swarms just simply have already been played, so that means it's time to look through the deck, get the rest of the Mordred Tides.
Which is not a small get.
No, because I don't think we've seen any of them, right?
But at the same time, you're looking at sitting at 3 life.
Versus what's going to be a powerful hand.
Right.
Yeah, again, we've been saying, like, Nick hasn't needed these big, spiky Mordred Tide turns. He's just been like, Rune Chance, an attack. They've just been like, yeah, okay, take it. CNC fully blocked out with the Face Purgatory, so that means Siren's Call didn't get any value on that turn. Had to hold that CNC for multiple turns, trying to get the value off of it. Eventually just threw it, saying, I need to switch my arsenal up. Codex of Frailty off the slither here.
Story of the game has really just been not enough disruption and not enough respect to the consistent overvalue that Viserai creates off of the hero effect.
Oh, and there's no Leave No Witnesses, dude. There's no Leave No Witnesses in the graveyard, and the Tunic counter would mean that it could be a CNC, and instead it just has to be a Persuasive Prognosis, which is disruptive, but can be eaten up by that Spellbound Creepers or the Grasp of the Arknight.
Ponder and a Frailty created, of course, off of the back of the Codex of Frailty, one of the last books in the game.
Yeah, black 1.
There's the cover of the Persuasive Prognosis, and
It was I forgot my tunic at the start of the turn, so I couldn't grab it.
yeah,
Oh no.
Oh no, says Nick. Yeah, he's real bummed, I'm sure. No, both players, good sports. You can see, again, another good energy game here, but you have to imagine while Nick is, sad for his opponent, he ain't that sad.
Malefic Incantation being played down, Rune Rager Swarm coming across. There's the play of the Revel and Rude Blood, and that's just too much. Revel's going to create the 4. The cover on the first one's great, but now you're looking at 10 on the back of this, split across 2 forms, and you just need to be able to pitch to the Rune Chance, and if you can't do that, you're just done, and that is the game. Nick just presents too much value, not enough disruption in the hand of Sage, not perhaps enough respect to stop the overvalue from Viserai, and, Viserai just did Viserai things, right?
Viserai did Viserai things pretty consistently and without that much crazy, over output, right? Just had some consistent damage, threatened some snuff outs, but it felt as though Sage was taking damage without able to present stuff that was that exciting. And so as a result, it just kind of slowly died. But sometimes that's how Flesh and Blood works. Your cards don't ever quite work out the way you want them to. And so our lone new now falls out of the top 8, and one of our 2 Viserais at least is moving on.